A lot of people feel like Rocket League is dying, or it has been dead for a couple years now. And I've always disagreed up until about a few months ago. I think I'm finally ready to admit that Rocket League is on life support, and it probably won't last much longer unless there are some big changes. I know I'm not exactly a massive content creator. There are plenty other streamers and creators out there who have more impact and more viewers than me, but I wanted to do my part to at least address some of the major issues and things that I think would really help Rocket League find some positive growth in the future. I really want to know you guys' thoughts, so if you agree with anything, or if you think I'm super wrong, or if I missed anything, make sure you let me know in the comments. I'll be reading every single one, but let's get into this. First, I think it's worth noting that there's a big difference between a game dying and being dead. Rocket League has definitely been in decline ever since it went free to play back in 2020 when it was picked up by Epic Games. It was really easy to be optimistic and think, oh wow, Epic's done a really good job with Fortnite, making it a top tier game. Surely they'll elevate Rocket League in the same way. But it feels like Epic sees Rocket League as a lost cause that they just want to make as much money out of as possible. 90% of their posts on their socials are centered around cosmetics or item shop stuff that's really just a cash grab for the community. But actual quality updates to the game are really few and far between. I mean, think about it. What are some of the biggest updates that Rocket League has brought to the game since Epic picked it up in 2020? There are definitely some nice ones, and I want to give credit where credit is due. You can see the boost meter by your teammates, which is a pretty nice touch, and there's also voice chat that's had a good improvement. But are there any others? It doesn't really feel like there's much else that's really changed the quality of the game. And are any of those even groundbreaking updates? I struggle to imagine someone who quit Rocket League a few years ago suddenly being like, oh dang, you can see your teammates boost now. I would definitely come back to Rocket League for that. But that does bring me to my next point, that Rocket League is definitely not dead. As of March 2025, it's estimated to be the 7th most played game in the world, which is super impressive, especially for a game that's been out for 10 years now. Rocket League is a super unique game with no real competitor, and it gives people a fun experience that they can't get from Call of Duty or Battle Royale games. It's a good change of pace that I think a lot of people really enjoy. The biggest problem is that Rocket League feels like this lake in the middle of a desert. There's water in it, but it's slowly drying up, and it's definitely not getting new water poured into it. It's the same thing with Rocket League. There's a really loyal fan base for the game, but every day there are people playing it for the last time, and it doesn't really feel like new people are picking up Rocket League. And why would they? There's a massive lack of creative content in Rocket League right now, and there has been for years. I'd argue that 90% of the people that consistently play Rocket League in 2025 are ranked grinders. They play Rocket League because they want to try and rank up. Maybe there are some people who play it casually with friends just to hang out with them and catch up, but other than that, is there anything else to do in the game? It doesn't really feel like it. Epic even took trading away, killing one of the few creative outlets the game had. There were people on YouTube that made cosmetics their entire content. People like Pick-a-Pixel with almost 1 million subs who had that massive hurdle now that trading was gone. And that's another one of my biggest concerns with Rocket League right now. It just feels like there's nothing creative being added to the game. The biggest thing that Epic has done for this has been those limited time game modes, but I don't think any of them really stuck. I played them once or twice and then I kind of got bored of them. It really feels like Epic has completely killed the casual community of the game. Without trading, the only thing to do long term in Rocket League is grind ranked, and people don't want to do that when they realize that people in SSL typically have like 5,000 hours or more. I want to get all my criticisms out first, and then we'll talk about solutions that I think could benefit the game. The next problem though, and definitely the most time sensitive one, is that DDoSing is insane right now in Rocket League. If you don't know what DDoSing is, I think it stands for distributed denial of service, and it's when somebody basically goes into the lobby, crashes the server, which makes the other team disconnect, and it gives them a free win. It is absolutely rampant right now. If you look at content creators or pros, anybody and everybody right now is saying how impossible it is to play ranked with so many DDoSers running around ruining their games. Plus, more and more people are complaining about encountering Smurfs and running into Smurfs in ranked, and it's really not that hard to make a Smurf account when you only need to be like level 20, I think, to play ranked. And like I said before, if the ranked community is the biggest part of the game, you would think that Epic would work double time to address it, call it out, and look for a solution, right? But we haven't heard anything from them lately. Another massive issue that people in the community have had for a while now is that Rocket League really sucks at communicating with its player base. It feels like Epic's strategy is to solve the issue first and then address the problem to the community. They did that in the past with stuff like Rocket Racing. The community scrambles around for months trying to figure out what's going on and begging for a solution, but Epic stays completely silent until they have a solution to bring to the community. I'm obviously not a businessman, so I have no idea what goes into making these kinds of decisions, but as somebody in the community, this is insanely frustrating. We obviously want a solution addiction to DDoSing. But even more than that, we want to feel like Epic sees that we're struggling and just acknowledge that. Even a quick tweet that's like, hey, we hear you guys. We know that you're struggling with DDoSing. We're aware of it, actively working on a fix, and we'll keep you updated. Even something like that, I would love to see. Just knowing that they see the issue and they're working on it would be massive. But there's just little to no comms from them. Not even roadmaps. You guys remember when they used to do those roadmap drops where they would outline everything coming up over the next handful of months? Like short-term events, but long-term goals. We haven't gotten anything like that in years. My last critique before we get into solutions is RLCS. I love RLCS. I've been doing watch parties for it for years now, and it just feels like it's gone so far downhill. More and more orgs are leaving the Rocket League scene, and I've made it very clear that it's basically because of the structure of RLCS and that it's not sustainable to be in the esport. I'm talking really big orgs too, like G2 and BDS, who literally made the grand final of Worlds, the biggest event in RLCS. After that, they were like, yeah, we can't afford to be here financially. We got to drop. Like, that's crazy. But FaZe has also left. Optic Gaming, Cloud9, Liquid, Xset, really big esports orgs are leaving the scene because it's not sustainable to be in RLCS. And this is terrible for the viewers too. Maybe it's just because more and more pros are retiring, and I'm a Rocket League unk who loved watching people like Squishy and Garrett G and all those guys that have kind of retired now. But I find it really hard to get excited about RLCS the way that I used to. Big orgs are out of the picture, so it's hard to get excited about teams now or like rivalries between orgs. And I like a lot of the players now, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't feel the same as it used to. And if Rocket League doesn't make changes, these other big orgs are eventually just going to run out of time before they have to pull out of RLCS too. But those are most of my biggest concerns. Let's talk about some positive things that I really think could benefit Rocket League. First, and by far the biggest in my opinion, we have to get a Rocket League creative mode. Just like Fortnite, where people can make workshop maps and then get commission if people play them, Rocket League needs to implement some sort of platform where the community can make maps and people on every console can play them with their friends. The closest thing we have to that right now is Lethamir, who's put in some really awesome work making really cool maps for people, but you have to be on PC to play them, and they require third-party software to use. If I became the Epic CEO for a day, my very first act would be to tell the community that we're working really hard to move Rocket League to Unreal Engine 5, and we're bringing on Lethamir and hiring him as the creative director of Rocket League. If Epic Games could give its community the tools to make creative workshop maps, it would thrive so much. You could have people that make racetracks to race their friends, like Rocket Racing. You could make ring maps. You could do volleyball or other weird game modes. You could do death runs. Literally endless possibilities. In a creative mode like that would 100% be enough to persuade some people to come back to Rocket League if we can give them more to do in the game than just grind ranked. Another really big help, in my opinion, is to open up the RLCS format. There are 3 major events every year now, because you got Major 1, Major 2, and then Worlds, but the major regions only get 4 teams to send to these events. And when you have tons of tier 1 esports that exist out there, the reality is that some of these really big orgs are not going to make it to these big major events if only 4 teams qualify from the big regions. I would love to see RLCS open up the majors to include 24 teams instead of 16. This would allow the bigger regions to have a couple extra spots so that those big orgs could be more likely to qualify for these events. I also really want RLCS to go back to the 3 split format they used to have. It used to be 3 major lands each year. That was like a fall, winter, and spring split, and then Worlds in the summer. But they took out that 3rd split a couple years ago, and now they're doing a calendar year format. I don't really like taking away one of the majors. The current format leaves really long stretches in the year with only 2 splits, and again, it's just one less major that these big orgs can make some money back by repping their sponsors at these events. Anyway, fix RLCS, open it up, and give these big orgs a chance to make some money back and a better incentive to stick around. The last thing that I think could low-key be really fun is to revamp clubs in Rocket League. You probably forgot about clubs up until now, but you can 100% make your own club, but there's nothing to do with it. In my mind, this is like a gold mine of potential. I think it'd be awesome to have club incentives and make it easier for people to join clubs and play with other club members. I used to play Destiny a lot in high school, and I always remember grinding every single week with my fire team or whoever to try and get all of like the weekly XP so that we could get the clan XP and level up our clan. Something like that would be awesome to do with Rocket League. Create incentives for people to play Rocket League and level up their clan. You could like content creators or pros invite their community into their clans, and then you could have communities competing against each other to see who gets the most XP each week or over a season. Give people cosmetics, put up a small cash prize or something. But I think there's a really good sense of community that clubs could bring to Rocket League if some life was just breathed into them. I'll probably upload this and then realize that there are a lot of things that I forgot to bring up and mention, but the bottom line is that right now Rocket League is becoming increasingly stale. Actually, more stale than it already is. And it's even harder when it doesn't feel like Epic is communicating anything to its player base about their future plans or directions that they want to take the game and go in. Overall, it's really hard to feel like they care about the game, and I hope that's not true because I love this game and I want it to succeed. I think RLCS is the most exciting esport in the world, and it just sucks to feel like it's being so poorly managed and it's not getting in front of people that would enjoy it if only it was given the chance to succeed. I really do want you to let me know in the comments what you think. I didn't want this to be some sort of Rocket League sucks, Rocket League is dead game, kind of pointless video. I really did want to just give my thoughts, hopefully stimulate some productive conversation, and maybe come back to this video down the line to see what Rocket League ended up doing with its game. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you a ton and would love to hear your thoughts. You can also catch me live every morning here on YouTube and just every other platform that you can watch live streams on. Comment your thoughts and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content, but otherwise I think that's all I got for you. I hope you know that Jesus loves you, and so do I. We'll see you in the next one.